Good afternoon everyone, it's Kay here from Taunton with the series ABC of Paper Crafting, sponsored by Handy Hippo Crafts, www.co.uk. Welcome. Apologies for the lateness of the video going up last week. It was a large file, YouTube didn't want to play, and so it didn't hit the YouTube channel until quite late in the week. Please remember, you only need this week's word and next week's word, and you are then eligible to enter the challenge on the Handy Hippo challenge, with the opportunity to win £20 were you to be the lucky person drawn. Today we are talking about card inserts, or the inside of the card that you've made and what to do with that. There are some key things that we need to talk about first, and those are card sizings, and without those firmly established in your mind, you will find it very hard to find the right kind of insert for your card should you want to line it with paper and have your verse as a standalone feature within the card. So what I'm talking about basically is a piece of card like this, which would be folded and put inside the card that you've made like a liner, and within the inside of that you would then either print a verse or decorate the inside of that card, and that gives the whole effect of the card a much more professional finish. If you look in the stores and so on, you'll find that the more expensive cards have these lovely inserts. They're very decorative. There's nothing to stop you lining the card that you've made in this way. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is talk to you about the paper insert sizing. Now, if you take this to be an A4 piece of paper, which we can see very, very clearly, and you fold that piece of paper inside in half, as I was just explaining to you, that becomes a C5 card. Now, where the card to be opening from left to right, that is the portrait image. It's very important to remember this if you are planning to line your card. If you turn your card around and you open it from top to bottom, it becomes C5 landscape. Now, I don't know if the C5 aspect changes in different countries. It probably does, but A4 is a universal size of paper, and so if you say half an A4 sheet of paper, and that's a sheet of paper folded in half, becomes the C5 size for an insert. So we'll leave that one down there for the moment. If you were to want to make a smaller card, the next standard would be A6, and that amounts to, if C5 is half an A4 sheet of paper, or an A4 sheet of paper folded in half, an A6 becomes a quarter of the A4 size. So that's a C5 folded in half, which gives you that when it's open, that when it's folded. Again, portrait if it's coming open from left to right, landscape if it's opening from bottom to top. Those are the key things that you need to remember if this is what you would like to do to line your cards. If you make any cards that are out of the standard sizing, then it is very, very simple to make an insert for that card from a standard A4 sheet of paper. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. So having decided, and we'll take it for granted that that's what we're going to do, that we are going to line our card in the first instance, you have several options open to you. There is the opportunity to go onto the internet, download free verses that you can then print out and put into your insert by using the Word program or another Photoshop program if you have something of that on your computer. Or you can put in stamped verses. Now here is a lovely stamp. It's a Christmas stamp with a lovely sentiment to it. It's a wooden block. The sentiment is on the back on a foam base, and the sentiment reads, "May this joyous season fill your home with love, your heart with hope, and your world with peace." Ideal for inside a Christmas card, I would say. So you could conceivably stamp this using StazOn or Archival or Tim Holtz Distress Inks, any of the inks that you feel would be appropriate. All of these are available on Handy Hippo. You do need to be aware that there are two types of stamping inks, a pigmented ink and a dye-based ink. I think it would be fair to say, if you're just starting out, look for a pigment ink, which is like the StazOn or Tim Holtz, rather than a dye-based ink. Dye-based inks primarily are used in plastic, metal, glass or ceramic stamping. For card, paper and that kind of thing, a pigment ink is the best way to go, and that follows, you know, across the board really. Just look and read up a little bit. Handy Hippo is excellent. On their site you will find information in all of the departments about what their products are about. You will find there is a place there within the card making aspect of the site which talks about pigment ink, dye-based ink, and it is very clear, very simple to follow. So if you have any worries, I would suggest you use that facility on the site to help you select what it is you want. There are stamps available. This is one from the Handy Hippo site, and it's a penny black stamp. Historically, penny black stamps are in the top echelon of stamps available. There are many new companies now, a lot of them featured on Handy Hippo, and things have moved to this kind of stamp, which is an acrylic based stamp. It's clear. For someone who hasn't done any stamping before, this would probably be the best option, because you are able to load these stamps onto an acrylic block, which is just a square rounded edged piece of acrylic. You put your stamp onto that smooth side down. You then load it up with whatever ink you're planning to use and place it onto the paper. And in doing so, because everything is see-through, you can actually place the stamp very easily where you want it to be. So for new stampers, I would advocate these clear stamps, just by virtue of them being a lot easier to use. I'm not saying they're the best in the world, I'm just saying for a new crafter, they are a jolly good place to start. On Handy Hippo you will find acrylic blocks, you will find rocker blocks. All of these blocks facilitate a very easy, straightforward way of using the acrylic stamps. When it comes to inks, as I've already said, you want something reliable and of relatively good quality. If you like to emboss, they also have these embossing stamp pads. Now these are clear, they are ink based, and what you do primarily for example, is take one of the stamps, make sure it has a good covering of the glue, place it onto the area that you want to emboss, put your embossing medium over the top of that, and then you need a heat gun to melt the two products together, and it gives a beautiful effect which I will show you very shortly. These are all things that you can obviously look at a little bit more clearly and with a bit more time yourself. If I put these products forward, then you have the opportunity to check them out on the site and learn a little bit more about them. I have made some cards for you to see, just to give you an idea of how this stamp comes out, and I think you'll agree it's a lovely, lovely stamp. I've just coloured it with pro markers. Red and green are the two optimums. The shading within the stamp actually makes some of the green look darker than it actually is. I've put 3 little gems down the side here to match the background layer of red card, which I've matted and layered to produce this overall effect. If you look at the sentiment on the card, that has been embossed using one of the sentiments on this card that reads "Celebrate the Season," and I wanted to do that so that you can see the embossing medium in action that I've been sent to talk to you about from Handy Hippo. And again, it's Lindy's Stamp Gang, and it's the embossing powder. I'm just seeing, it's two-tone colours, and it is very, very fine embossing powder. This powder would actually be ideal for the kind of work that you're looking at here. You'll see the S in season. Oh, I've just dropped a gem off the card, sorry about that. The S in season is really quite intricate. If you were to use one of the thicker embossing mediums, and they too are available on the site, then you would lose a lot of the definition that is apparent in this sentiment here. Obviously, the thicker the embossing powder is, the more dimensional it is, so it would be great for embossing different projects like tags or the little die tags and things like that. Anything of that nature that required a heavier embossing, you would actually use less of the embossing powder to achieve a fuller effect, like this for instance. The larger aspect of this print, you would actually not use so much powder, but because this is written and it's letters, you want it to be clear. The embossing can only be as clear as the stamp that you've used, and that's another thing to remember. But overall, this embossing powder is an absolute delight. It comes in midnight gold, and they really are stunning, stunning colours. Silver moon turquoise, which is beautiful. Whoops, I'm going to lose it off the table. Scotch broom yellow, which is kind of hay strawy colour. This bougainville red teal, and if you look at it closely, I'm hoping the camera can pick it up, you can see within the red is a kind of bluey greeny iris effect. It is really, really gorgeous. And then there is the fiddlehead fan green, which again is beautiful. It's got a very pearlized metallic effect. It is absolutely gorgeous. And to say it's two-tone, you actually only realise how two-tone it is once you've embossed with it and the different light catches the colour and sends it out to you in all its fullness. It is an absolute delight. I've got another card here that I've put together. This is using the Botanica paper range. This is a gatefold card, and it leads me into talking about these pre-cut, die-cut sentiments, which are an absolute boon to any crafter. It can either act as a signature to your card to zone in on, like in this one, where it is a gatefold card, an A4 piece of paper scored in 2 different places with a second avenue. So I've used this to act as a closure on the card, although it's not meant to close it down firmly. You're meant to have the tent-fold look to the card, but when you open it up, what I've done is lined each segment of the card using the Botanica papers, and then with that I've used one of their very own sentiment embellishments here. Obviously you would be free to put more personalised sentiments on the borders of the card, and because it would then be closed, they wouldn't necessarily be seen. It's up to you then whether you decorate the back of the card or not, but obviously if you wanted to, you could put a pocket feature there and put a little note in for the recipient. Nothing is beyond the realms of possibility, but this is a wonderful, wonderful paper combination. If you were to buy the paper pad, which is an absolute delight, I have talked about it before, you would then be able to buy these sentiments alongside it, which match the paper pad entirely, or these flowers and butterflies and things that you could just work your own individual magic on and put together in such a way as to embellish your card and leave a sentiment there as well. There are several paper companies on Handy Hippo, which it would be ideal for you to check out whilst you're on the site anyway. You will find that the Graphic 45 range of papers has the same feature, die cut embellishments, sentiments. Also the Kaiser Craft does that. Several of the other paper stashes. It's really worth going along and having a look, because if these things are purchased as sets, then you have the possibility of making large amounts of cards with very little effort. If, for instance, you had a special time of year coming up, like Christmas or Easter or Mother's Day, and you wanted to put cards out there for sale, that is actually the cheapest way to put your cards together, to have it all matching and coordinating. Now, I've also used this other set of embellishments sent by the Handy Hippo company, and these are die cut sentiments. They're all on the board. I'm just looking for the loose one that I took out, if I can find it. Here we are. Now these are lightweight paper sentiments and embellishments. As you can see, this is to daughter. You've got your verse there. Were you to have made your card and red featured in the card, this is Christmas sentiments, so I would imagine that would be the case. Then you could simply open up your insert even before you attached it to the card, like so. Put it in the centre, glue it down with some collal glue or glue stick, any of the aforementioned glues that we've talked about in previous episodes, and all you do then is slot that into your card, and as the card is opened up, there is the verse. You can, of course, decorate it more. You could actually use a border punch to pretty up the paper. One of these, for example, There are border punches on Handy Hippo, and if you put that to the top and bottom of your insert, it does lend itself to making the insert a little bit more attractive if you don't want anything too plain. There are lots and lots of different things available for you to sample and try and take ideas from. The other thing that you can do is actually embellish the emboss the insert of your card. I've got two classic examples here from the Sizzix company, also available on Handy Hippo. And what these would do is you would run your insert through the embosser to get these two designs. Obviously one or the other, you wouldn't put two into one insert, although you could, one on either side. But here you would have the embossed leaves. You would be able to put your sentiment in the centre. If you printed out something on the computer, it would just be a question of cutting that to size and putting it in the centre there. Or you could write out sentiments and put it in and around the bird. There are limitless opportunities to dress up the inside of your card. It really is very much down to individual choice, and all I'm doing is saying that these things are available on Handy Hippo, and you know, if you would like to go and look at them, then you would find them readily available there. This is another card I made using one of the Aperture cards sent by Handy Hippo some time ago. I've used one of the printed out sentiments from this set, which I've put in the centre. This is a three-edged card, if you like. You've got this side which folds in to make the C5 side, and all I've done in between that particular sandwich is put some blue paper. I've then anchored down the sentiment. I've also then punched out some of the snowflakes, and I've also used the die cut that was sent to me just to really pretty up that card. It is a personal choice. I am just showing in very basic and very simple terms that there are things available on the Handy Hippo site to help you with any choice that you care to make within your card making experience. It's a lovely, lovely pastime. Once you get started, once you get all the things around you that you feel you need, then it's all systems go, and it's only your imagination that will limit what you do. That said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll call it quits for today with a gentle reminder to go along to the Handy Hippo YouTube channel to find the secret word and to have a look on their site. There's just been a wonderful Halloween giveaway of goodie bags on there. Do sign up for the newsletter if you're at all interested, and that will make sure that you are privy to any of the special offers, sales and main features that apply to the site. Thank you very much for your time. Take care everyone. Happy crafting.